This is my ghetto celebrity.
Yes.
Oh, my ghetto spaghetti.
Hey, I'm Colleen Witt, and we are on another episode of Eating While Broke. Today, I have the lovely AJ Crimson from AJ Crimson Beauty, and he is whipping us a lovely, it looks like a gourmet Eating While Broke dish. So tell us what you're making for us.
So today I'm going to make an amazing spaghetti that I just absolutely love, and yeah, you're going to love it.
Yay, excited. Okay, well, this doesn't look like a traditional Eating While Broke dish. So,
Okay.
One, feed me.
I'm definitely going to.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to. So it's going to be great. So, I mean, yeah, and I guess when I heard about it, and you're like, hey, like, what's the dish that you ate while you were broke? And I was like, okay, I had to think about it for a little while because it was either going to be like rice, because I kind of get like eggs and rice, but then also too, I eat a lot of noodles. I eat a lot of spaghetti noodles. So, so this is going to be my version of that. So yeah,
Nice.
I mean, we have the water boiling over here, which is really
Perfect.
great.
You just rest that right over there.
So I will do that right here.
Yeah.
So I'll take some
Go
spaghetti.
ahead.
Should we just do the whole thing?
Do the whole thing.
Yeah, let's just do it.
Why not? Live large.
Exactly. And I actually can eat all of these by myself, like in one sitting. So I really love spaghetti.
Oh, really?
I do. Actually, I love
So I
noodles.
did a little switch up that AJ does not know about today. I just found out that they have protein noodles.
Really? What is that?
What we're about to eat today.
Oh,
I
nice.
slipped you protein noodles because I wanted to watch the carbs. Oh, that's a lot of salt.
It's for the water, so it's really
Oh.
for the water. You really won't taste it in the noodles. But also, this is Himalayan sea salt, so you don't want to use too much because Himalayan sea salt tends to be a lot saltier than regular table salt, but it's also healthier too. So
Oh, is that what? I
Yeah.
was actually wondering what the difference between the Himalayan and that's when I started to question your brokenness right there.
So I'm definitely a little bougie.
He has vegan butter,
I'm
everybody.
bougie broke for sure.
Okay.
I think that my dad used to tell me this was a great story actually. So I had to be about maybe 12 or 13, and we were picking out silverware for the house, and I just was thumbing through. Was like, oh, like what do you think? And whatever I picked, I guess it was like super expensive.
Yeah.
And he said, boy, you got rich taste and poor pockets.
Ooh.
And I've always remembered that, but I was like, oh, like I have to. I love that I have rich taste, but now I can't have poor pockets.
Yeah.
So I have to catch up to myself.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of always been in me to like nice things.
Yeah, and you know what I like about my mom used to always say, and I'm gonna sit because
Please.
you're doing all the cooking.
You don't want to help?
No, it's the I'll help with the sauce part.
Okay. This is good. This is just how you do it at home too. Like when everything is like bubbling over and
Exactly.
messing up the stove.
But yeah, my mom used to always say that poor is more long term and broke is temporary.
I like that.
So even when we were doing Eating While Broke, it's awesome to have entrepreneurs like yourself, self-made individuals like yourself on the show, because honestly, I think sometimes when you're in the situation of being broke or you don't have enough money to get whatever project off the ground,
Yeah.
it's like you can sometimes think it's a forever plan, but you and other self-made individuals are living proof that it's possible. So with that being said, I'm curious, how did you get AJ Crimson Beauty off the ground?
So AJ Crimson Beauty was actually founded in 2013. This is my second brand. My first brand was called Kissable Couture, which I launched in 2007. But I learned a lot when I was building that brand. So that by the time AJ Crimson Beauty came along, I knew that I wasn't going to spend as much money, as I did with the first brand. I knew that I was going to utilize social media a little bit more. So I started this brand with about $5,000.
Wow.
And it was... But to basically level that out, I had already started some of the formulation in the old brand.
Okay.
You know, while doing the old brand, I was just like, I knew what I wanted to do. So by the time this idea and this concept had come along, it was just more of about implementation, and I started really small. I think that people often think that they have to go big and, you know, have 45 colors. I started with 8 shades that I had already kind of developed, and I needed to get a concept around. I took it to a trade show. People seemed to resonate with it, and I sold out that first day, which was really amazing. I'll use this.
And you said 2013,
This
right?
was 2000. Well, 2012 is kind of when I
2012.
started like actually developing, but it came out in 2013. Yeah.
So this is all before the Fenties of the world and
Yes.
all that came out.
Yeah.
So
So
how?
we've been inclusive. We were inclusive before inclusive became like a buzzword.
Oh, can you, for the people like myself, what does that mean, inclusive?
So right now, you know, everybody's like, oh, diversity, and everybody wants to get in diversity training and making sure that everybody's included and their voice matters. When I started AJ Crimson Beauty, it was really, I've been traveling and touring with like Hilary Duff and Fergie and Estelle for like 3 years. So Christina Milian, Faith Evans, all these girls I have been working with, A. Marie, and they're a myriad of shades. And I always had to kind of come to the table and figure out like how I was going to match their foundation or do the things that I needed to do for them, you know, so that they look and feel their best as a makeup artist, right? And there weren't a lot of colors on the market. There just wasn't a lot of everything, you know, in a way that spoke to Black women or women of color directly. And I think that's what we're dealing with now. That's what we're seeing more of now. Black women are standing up and saying, hey, you know, I have a voice. I would like to see myself in the ad campaigns, that kind of thing. So AJ Crimson Beauty from the start was always about not leaving that girl out.
Yeah.
You know, we started with the darkest color first and worked our way backwards to make sure that, you know, she was seen.
Yeah.
You know.
And it sounds like you had a lot of experience because you were working with, it sounds like you were working with white girls and Black girls.
For sure.
When I was a kid, and I joke about this, I mean, it's not really a joking matter, but I came from a little bit of child abuse, and I remember when you try to cover up bruises, and I'm mixed.
Oh, wow.
You know, you couldn't find a palette that would cover, and this sounds completely ridiculous, but you couldn't find a color to cover my face because at that time, there was no, like, you know, 6 grades in between of shades. It was just either white or Black, and it was like, awkward white.
No, so many things are like that. You're right.
Yeah.
And I think that was what I was up against. You know, it really was. Again, like I felt like the lighter shades were easier to make. It was the deeper colors that you just didn't see. Like I started with a girl who's South Sudanese, and I was like, hey, if I can match her line. My first round was terrible. It was horrible. Like I thought I had the darkest color. I was testing it at a trade show. I put it on this girl. I was like, hey, I got the perfect color for you. She came up. I was like, give me your hand. And I went to swatch it, and we literally looked at it. All I could see was green in it. She looked at it. She looked at me, and I was just like, she's like, okay. It was no way to spin it. No way to spin it to make it feel better or work. And I was like, all right, I got to go back to the drawing board. But that's how it happens. You know what I mean? I didn't stress out about it, but I knew it had to happen there first because no one talks to her. You know, and once we got it right, then I was able to really mix and blend all of the other colors backwards.
Nice.
So that was cool. So now you do have a shade that can work for you in my brand, so I will definitely make sure you get that.
Thank you. And
sure.
I love this color, by the way. I'm super
It's
obsessed.
called Nude, which is like, it's so good. Like,
Everyone
you know, that's
look
like
out
the
for
most
this lip
underrated
color.
color. I actually made that for Cassie.
I'm really,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm wearing, okay. I feel even more special.
That was like a custom
How
color.
does someone from Detroit, and I say that with endearment, Detroit, I feel like has been the underdog for a long time. When I hear you say names like Hilary Duff or Estelle, I'm just like, how do you make your way from Detroit to Hollywood?
I was very ambitious. I've always been very ambitious. I think that since I was a little kid, I didn't know how I was going to be successful. I just knew I was going to be successful. And there weren't a lot of people that necessarily believed in that dream, or maybe even knew, I wouldn't say but didn't believe in it. They just didn't know how to believe in it. And but I knew I had to figure that out. And I just had made connections. So I used to work at a radio station called WJLB. It was the #1 station in the city, and I produced the music, the 6 to 10 show with Bushman at the time. And I ended up meeting a woman named Peggy Body, who was the arts development coordinator for Biv 10 Records. And Michael Bivins decided to do an album project with a couple of kids in Detroit. So I helped to kind of find those groups. I went to intern for her. Then it turned into me actually styling one of the groups. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And, like, okay, so I'm starting to put the words together for the things that I had interest in, but I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
So find like, oh, fashion stylist. Okay, cool. Like makeup artist.
And how young were you then?
I had to be like maybe 17 or 18 around this time.
Wow.
And it was just a good time. You know what I mean? Like just figuring all of that stuff out. So having worked on that, I styled my first video and all that stuff. And fast forward, I had a friend who was a director, a local director. She ended up getting a job as an art department coordinator on 8 Mile, a movie 8 Mile with Eminem and Brittany Murphy. And she was like, AJ.
No one's ever, you don't even need to,
Oh.
it's 8 Mile. Okay?
No, sometimes you just never know, right?
You're listening to this show or watching this show and you don't know 8 Mile.
Then what are you doing?
I don't know. But yeah, so you worked 8 Mile.
So she was like, AJ, like, I'm working on this movie. You need to give me your resume. And at that time, I had got a job at a Mac store to just kind of learn makeup and everything. I was just trying to learn everything I could, And I gave her my resume for wardrobe and for makeup, and the wardrobe department actually got back to me first. So with 8 Mile, I was actually walking into my job, my part-time job at Mac. And I only took this job because I really wanted to just learn skin and foundation, because I worked with an artist prior to that, and the makeup artist that we had hired could not get the references. And I'm really big on reference. Like I just, that's what I was taught, So when the makeup artist did her own thing outside of the book of reference that we had created, I was just like, what? I was like, can you show me this in the book?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I just decided to do this. And I was like, no, I'm pretty literal about my references. I wish I had your stuff because I would do it myself.
Yeah.
And I think it sounded kind of rude when it came out, but there was a lot of money on the line, right? And we're doing an album cover shoot. So I took the girl to that Mac store. And I was like, hey, like, can you guys recreate one of these looks? And because I thought about what I said, I was like, I'm going to learn how to do the makeup that I want to see, just to see if I could do it. They ended up hiring me because I went back for a job. On this particular day that the costume supervisor called, I was walking into that job. And they were like, hey, like, we'd love to interview you. We have your resume. Like, what can you come down and meet us? And I was like, oh, like, I'm getting ready to walk into work. Like, can we do it like another day? And
hold on, I'm going behind.
Yes, please. You
Behind
see
you,
that?
I feel like
Look, I'm talking.
we have a.
Look at that. Yeah. Oh, good. It's coming together really well.
I've never been on this side of the table.
Are you serious? Look,
It feels so cool.
So
I'm sure I've pissed off all the video guys in the room, but
oh no, I'm so sorry. Here, will you give it to me and you go back and sit down?
It looks great.
No, it
So
does
go
look
on,
great,
continue with this story.
So,
you and I could talk for days, just so you know.
I feel like we can.
I feel like we're
can, for
future
sure.
besties.
Let's do it. Let's do that. Let's not stop this. So John Casey called me. He was like, "Hey, like, can you come down for an interview?" And I was just like, I'm walking into work right now. Can we do it like another day? I'm like, no, like we're actually trying to book for this right now. So if something else comes up, we'll give you a call back. And in that moment, like, I was devastated. Like, my heart literally dropped, because it was just like, hold on, like, what just happened here? Like, I'm walking into a job that is not my career at all, to not go and interview for the job that is absolutely my career goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, no, I just couldn't believe it was happening to me, and I was heartbroken, to be honest.
So you actually showed up to work?
Well, I was right there. I was in front of the door. I didn't, but I'm very loyal, and I'm also committed. Like, when I make commitments, like it's like you keep your commitments, right? You don't just bail on people like they were depending on me.
Did you sleep okay that night?
I don't think I did. Like, I literally thought, that's when I was like, I'll never let something like that happen to me again. Like, this is my life on the line, So I was actually on 8 Mile with a photographer looking at some photographs that we had worked on. And I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. And what was he doing? We were looking at the pictures, and I got another phone call, and I was like, yeah, like, where are you guys at? Like, I'll come and meet you. I'm actually on 8 Mile, like, right now. And they were like, okay, cool. Like, come down and meet us. I did have to work that day at the Mac store. And when I got down there, they were like, hey, like, so this is the job. It is doing laundry overnight. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And they were like, are you concerned? I was like, no. I was like, can you do laundry? I was like, yeah, like I can figure it out. If you show me what you need, I'll do it. And I was like, well, you're probably thinking like, why do we need you to do laundry? And I was like, yeah, like, why do you need me to do laundry? And they're like, well, because in Hollywood, like we have, overnight laundry services. They send the costumes out and they come back the next morning fresh for the actors. I was like, all right, cool. Like, obviously we're in Detroit. We don't have that 24-hour cleaners. So you're going to be the 24-hour cleaner. I was like, all right, sounds good. They're like, this job doesn't pay very well. It's not.
I was hoping you were going to say it paid well.
No, they're like, it doesn't pay a lot. They said it doesn't pay a lot. I was like, well, how much does it pay? And I was like, well, it pays $100 a day. Is this the right one? Yeah. It says it pays $100 a day. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds good. I'll take that. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, yep. And then I was like, when do you need me to start? They're like, can you start right now? I was like, I sure can. Let me make a phone call.
So it sounds like you went from, you were doing makeup, you temporarily was the laundryman, which is amazing. Because I think a lot of people, well, some people probably would have taken it, but a lot of people maybe wouldn't have. I think that was a good judgment call on your part.
For sure. I mean, it's not always about the money. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out on opportunities these days because they're thinking about the money, especially when you don't have experience. Now, yes, I had some experience, but I had never worked on a movie, like a major motion picture before. Not enough to where I could demand anything. And again, there was a bigger picture. And the bigger picture was for someone to want to take me out of Detroit, to like take me under their wing and say, hey, you're coming with us. Like when this movie leaves here, I want to go with it. So that week that I ended up in the hospital and not being able to go, I told the doctor, I was like, hey, like, when do we start? Like, how do we get this going? He was like, why are you in such a rush? I said, I have a flight on Friday. He's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to LA. I'm going to start a new life. Like, I literally, those were my words. I was like, I'm going to start my new life on Friday. I'm moving to LA. My dad ended up telling me that it wasn't going to happen that way. And it took about 2 months for my face to go back down. But I started watching Behind the Music. And I want to say on the last day of my appointment where everything was clear and I was good to go, my car blew up. Like the engine in my car had blown up. And this was a car like one of my homegirls had given me, so I was just like, I just started laughing because I was like, what am I going to do? Like what? Like I don't have shit else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had burnt my hand. I had a 3rd-degree burn on my hand, which had happened like a couple weeks before that. I was just like, what is happening with this city? Like, why is it trying to hold me back like this? And
did you feel like it was holding you back, or do you feel like, and I sometimes feel this way. It's like sometimes when you're so focused, I feel like, for lack of better words, I'm not trying to object to anyone spiritually, but I always feel like the devil comes to mess with you right when you're either like so close to the goal, it's like I'm going to distract you with a whole bunch of riffraff. Do you feel like it was that, or do you feel like it was just Detroit was like, I'm determined to keep you here?
I don't think it was Detroit. I think it was the people. Like, I mean, I felt like my brother was like really, sad that I was going to leave because he felt like maybe I was leaving him behind. And I think that it was just a lot of sad energy more than anything. Moreover,
I was just about to do the same thing.
I saw that. I was like, I don't want us to go out of business over here. I think it was a lot of that. So this next round, it was really just more or less keeping it to myself and like keeping it locked inside, but also not allowing whatever that energy was to overpower my dream. Like I knew I still had to accomplish this dream, and I just found myself like watching Behind the Music, and I watched one on Diddy, and he was going back and forth from like DC to New York. And is this one for this one? Yes. And we're gonna use our sauce. This is our sauce. So this is store-bought sauce, just so you know. Store-bought sauce.
Progresso with the meat.
With the meat.
Well, the meat flavor or something.
Meat flavor, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting, meat flavor? But it's really good. So I was watching Behind the Music, so I watched J-Lo, I watched Diddy, and I watched Left Eye. And each of them had like $750. Or like one was on the bus. Like Diddy was on the bus back and forth from DC to New York. J-Lo had got kicked out of her house, was living in the basement of her dance studio. And, she basically caught the bus to LA to be a fly girl, and ended up dancing for Janet Jackson and became Jennifer Lopez. And then Left Eye, she took a bus to Philly with $700 and got into TLC and became one of the biggest selling groups of all time. So it's like, all right, cool. So how much money you got left? I got about $700 left for my savings, and I was like, I'm just gonna get on the bus. I think that's what it is. And I got on the bus. I'm gonna let that heat up a little bit more. I bought a bus ticket on a Greyhound. I packed one bag of makeup, like a carry-on, and one bag of clothes. And I didn't tell anybody. My brother was actually supposed to drop me off, and he got there late. And the day I planned to leave, and I was already in a cab. And when he finally showed up, and I just threw my keys out the window, and I was like, "Hey, I'll call you when I get there." And because I just I couldn't miss it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was like another one of those things where the universe was just going to try to step in and stop me. Because if I'd have been waiting on him, then I would have gotten there late and I would have missed my bus. So I got down there. I called my mother as the bus was backing out, and I was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna try to go to LA again." And she was like, "Okay, like when do you think you're gonna go?" And I was like, "Actually, right now." She's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "I am on a Greyhound." And she was like, "Okay, when are you coming back?" I was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "How long is it gonna take you to get there?" I was like, 3 days. And she was like, "Will you call me when you get there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll call you when I get there." And I got off the phone, and I actually, I just started to cry a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I think it was like, I'm even feeling like I want to cry now, but like, because that moment just always, like, that's the first time that I ever was like getting ready to like just do something as big on my own, and I felt like I've been fighting hard for that moment, and it was finally here. So backed out. Now halfway through the trip, maybe I got to Vegas, so I called Mark Bridges, and this is, mind you, this is 2 months later.
Did you say backed out?
No, so we backed out of the
yeah.
we backed out of the depot, but we're like 2 days into the trip now, and I'm in Vegas, and this is also 2 months later from when I had originally spoke to Mark about staying at his place when he offered. And I was like, "Hey, Mark, it's AJ." Like, he was like, "Hey, what's up, AJ? Like, how you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing good." He's like, "You feeling better?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm feeling much better. Like, how are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm doing great." I know how I want to do this. So then I said, "Hey, is it still okay if I come and stay at your place?" And he was like, "Yeah, like, when do you think you want to come?" I was like, I'll be there tomorrow." He was like, "Where are you?" I was like, "I'm on a Greyhound." I said, I know it's like short notice, but I just couldn't think about it. I had a window of opportunity. The door opened and I had to go with it. And he was like, "You know what? Just tell me where to pick you up and I'll be there." And like, can you turn it down for me? And he was there and it picked me up, and literally that was the first day to the rest of my life. Like, like it just went from there. Like, I mean, the awesomeness that I got to experience just even living with him. Like Alicia Silverstone was like in our kitchen like one morning, and I walked out. It was crazy. It was dope.
I have to ask now, and only because we're cutting short, and it sucks because I have so many questions.
We need more time. I talk too much. I'm so sorry.
When it comes to, no, you don't. When it comes to AJ Crimson Beauty, what was like some of the biggest hurdles getting the brand off the ground? And I have to know like an insider scoop of wearing too many hats too.
Okay, I can see that. So I actually, luckily, like at the time I did AJ Crimson Beauty, I was also running another business, so I didn't have to. So I wasn't struggling. I wasn't on my knuckles. You know what I mean? Like I was when I first got to LA. But I think the biggest thing, I want to say that one of the biggest challenges was like in our growth process was dealing with would-be investors, or even thinking that I needed an investor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everybody will have you thinking like, "Oh, you should be doing this. You should be selling this much product. You could do this." Like when I first launched it, I did about 60,000 in 2 months. Like, and that was at launch. You know what I mean?
And that was just no funding.
That was no funding. That was me funding it, and we're still self-funded. Actually, I was like, I'm going to build this business, and it's going to fund itself. And we'll just grow that way. And so I did that 60,000 just off of Instagram. And that was when you really could do it off of Instagram.
Yeah.
And I love our meal.
This meal looks so good. I want to go home and make it for my mate. so he can think I'm a gourmet chef, because this is the best looking eating while broke dish
You know,
I've ever seen.
listen, like I said in the beginning, I think
You know
broke
how
is
to
a
play
mind.
it.
Broke is a
Yeah.
mindset, you know what I mean? And I've never, and like my dad said, I had rich taste but poor pockets. But so it's about taste, you know what I mean? I think you just have to kind of go into. You don't have to, just because you don't have a lot of money, doesn't mean that you
Oh,
have
it looks so lovely, everyone.
to live like it.
Today we don't have overhead cameras, so
Well, we don't have over. Look,
I
Okay, well, hopefully you can
know.
see it, but I want you
it
to
looks
taste
so
it.
good.
So hopefully, if you need salt or pepper,
I don't
it's
think
here.
I'll need salt or pepper.
Good. Can I sit down with you? Do you
Yes,
mind?
please.
Can I come over?
You slaved in the kitchen for me.
Yes, please. Oh, and I got my Vernors.
Yes, we have the Verner's.
Thank you. So this is a
ginger.
Detroit classic, Vernors ginger ale.
Ginger. Delicious.
So
You
good.
can taste the difference.
I haven't had that in so long. That's so
Yeah.
good.
So I'm gonna try and take a bite. Well, I'm gonna let you take a bite.
Okay. Hopefully it's good. Because I didn't taste any of this, but I think it's
This
great. I think
looks
it'll be
so delicious. So this is green onions. Onions, green pepper,
green pepper.
vegan butter, meat spaghetti sauce,
good. And Polish
spaghetti,
sausage.
and Polish sausage. And it looks amazing. I was surprised you didn't add cheese to this dish.
No dairy. This is so good.
Oh my God.
I'm totally finishing this.
I'm definitely gonna finish this. But I'm surprised that you're not taking funding, because I see a lot of venture capitalists now
Yeah.
all of a sudden. I hate to say all of a sudden, but it's true.
Yeah, it's how it
all of a
is.
sudden stepping up, and you see brands also all of a sudden not only taking in brands, but they're also giving decent shelving space, which is
Yeah.
a big deal.
I felt like, for me, the conversations I was having, they weren't lining up with my values. They said they saw the vision, but I didn't feel like they were there. They were really there to try to take over the business. And for me, it was never, I didn't put my name on this company to be an employee of my own company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do that. And I even called Bobby Brown, like, 25 years in the business, $1 billion brand, sold it to Estee Lauder. I literally hit her in the DM because I was like, who can I talk to that has been where I'm trying to go that can offer me some guidance? Because when I looked to the people to my left and to my right, people weren't really actively looking to share, and it was also like, who can you be vulnerable with, without people looking down on you, or feeling like, or making you feel like you're not successful or at what you're trying to do. And, so I just took a chance on contacting her, and we had a really great conversation. And, and one of the things I said, hey, I need like $2 million. Like, one, will you give it to me? Because,
But
because
she
I
responded
know
to
you
your
got
DM.
it. She did. She responded. She was like, I was like, hey, can we jump on a call? I don't know if you remember me. I met you backstage at a fashion show, like with Estelle, like years ago. It'll be, I have some questions about my beauty business. I don't even know if you know about it, but here's my page. Check it out. Let me know. I was literally sleeping, and I had been going through one of the hardest times of my business. I was trying to open, I had a new LA location. I was trying to open a New York location.
Okay.
I had hired these people to like paint. They painted it all wrong, so I had to fly to, New York to paint it myself because I wasn't
wow.
going to pay to do it again.
Damn.
I had a girl who had quit on me, just
Yeah.
abruptly, like during a holiday weekend. It was just so many things, and I had one employee that was off, and we're a very small team. So it was just like, I was like, this is too much. And I literally found myself in Times Square, like, what am I doing? I was like, what am I doing? I was like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, this is not how it's supposed to feel. Like, I can't go back to my friend's house because it's 4:00 in the morning because I don't want to wake them up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I can't go book check into a hotel right now because the timing is off. I was like, this is not how it's supposed to
Yeah.
work. So when I hit her up, it was really out of, it was a bit of, I won't say desperation. I was just needed
Yeah.
the right guidance. I needed somebody to care and somebody
Or
to
re-spark
just,
that engine when you're there, right?
or just to tell me like that I'm on the right path. I needed
Yeah.
a sign that I was on the right path. So when I asked her, I was like, hey, like, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the conversations that I'm having. This is the kind of money I need. She said, why'd you open the store? I was like, because every retailer that I went to told me that Black women don't shop here, and they didn't want to take my brand.
Wow.
And it wasn't that my brand wasn't good or good enough, because it rivals. My brand is the blueprint for a lot of brands that are out there now.
Yeah.
It's the benchmark. So it's just like, I was like, I had to make my own way. I've always had to make my own way, so I was not accustomed to doing that. But in this particular case, it was like, hey, like you're getting all these mixed messages of like what business is supposed to be and what your business is supposed to be like, and I was just trying to weigh my options. So I was like, I think I need $2 million to really take this to the next level. These are the conversations I've been having. I was like, do you have $2 million you want to invest or $1 million? She was like, well, I can't do it because, my deal with Estee Lauder upon her departure. But I was like, all right, cool. And then she said, don't take anybody's money. She's like, don't take anybody. She said, you're not going to want to hear this, but don't take anybody's money. And I was like, why? And she said, because once you do that, then the brand is no longer yours. It's no longer yours. It belongs to the person that gave you the money.
Yeah.
And that is what I do, because I have seen that happen more times than not, where people have gone into these deals prematurely and thinking like, oh, I need this investor, I need to do this, as opposed to, it wasn't that I needed an investor, I just needed more sales.
Yeah.
I needed more sales. I needed to hit the ground running and more impact. And that was what we did. So after having that conversation, I had turned down those bad deals because they really were bad deals. Like somebody was trying to get like 75% of my company for like
bad deal.
$0. And I was like, do you realize I can make this in like this short amount of time? I will shut the store down. I'll liquidate before I do, before I do this kind of deal. And that was what I did. And I'm proud of my journey. I'm proud of the way that I stuck to my guns. And yeah, I own 100% of it, but I fought for my.
You own 100%?
I own 100% of my business.
Just
Absolutely.
before we close out, you own 100%.
I own AJ Crimson Beauty 100%.
That's
and
amazing.
When the time comes, if the time comes, then yes, I will be open to have a bigger conversation about investment partners, but only when I'm ready and when the brand is ready for that.
And let them knock and beat down your door. I'm
Absolutely.
just curious now, where can people pick up your products?
I'm glad you asked. So you can always get it from ajcrimson.com. But then also we're launching in Nordstrom.
Okay.
So I think that probably by the time
definitely by the time this comes
out, we will have already launched.
Nordstrom, everybody. So I guess the black women do go in Nordstrom, huh?
They do, and I think this time everything has shifted. After coming off of the Black Lives Movement, protests, and people really doubling down on accountability. On the diversity that they say that they have, especially, and we have to give our hats off to Sharon Shooter of Oma Beauty, because she really kind of kicked that conversation off and really all people down to the carpet. And I think there was that conversation where it got everybody on board. And this quarantine really isolated us to a point where we almost kind of we're going crazy, and we got to see the injustice that was happening around us, as opposed to like living in our own little bubbles, right? And a lot of the retailers, we had conversations with, but Nordstrom felt the best. They actually, as opposed to me pitching to them, they were pitching to us, and they were saying, "Hey, we understand what you're doing. We understand that we have this customer here. We love what you've been doing, and what I'm creating is something so different. It's pro luxury. So there isn't a black-owned brand that is a luxury brand. And that was what I set out to do, and you have a professional edge. It's pro solutions for everyday women. So I love seeing that translate through. I love that I'm with a retail partner that understands my goal and are willing to grow with me.
And they represent that luxury, so they're right aligned with the
perfect. It's the perfect sweet spot for my brand for sure. And I think that was something too. We had always been thinking about where does AJ Crimson get to live? Where does AJ Crimson Beauty get to live? Because we're not drugstore, and we're not masstige, like that middle ground. We really are, a higher end brand. We just happen to speak to Black women first, and it's an exciting time.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
And now it makes all the sense in the world why we're eating a luxury Eating While Broke meal.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on an episode of Eating While Broke. I secretly want you to come back, so hopefully,
anytime.
Yes, come back and share more stories, because I don't think there's enough time in the world to even. You have so much, even behind the scenes, and just.
Thanks.
I feel like there's so much knowledge and stuff we could talk about, especially when it comes to building the brand and taking it to other levels. So I hope you come back with a even cooler dish.
I'm sure I can think of something.
Okay.
For sure.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to Eating While Broke. I'm here with AJ Crimson from AJ Crimson Beauty, the luxury of beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.